to cloud server. Hi, good day. I'm Charlie Starrett, and I'm from Transformational Women, and I interview inspirational and influential women from across the world who are really leaders of whatever organization or whatever they are in at this current time, as to serve as a way of inspiring other women to look at these role models and see where they've come from, and to see the challenges they faced and where they've got to now. So it's with enormous pleasure that I get to introduce today's guest, who is Lark Doley. She's the president of Toastmasters International, which is the pinnacle of our global organization. So a very big welcome to you, Lark.
Thank you so much, Charlie. It is an honor to be with you today.
Wonderful. And Lark, you are sitting in Texas, in in a very interesting building in Texas, and here I am in a normal building in Brisbane, Australia. You sitting
It's amazing what you can do with technology, isn't it?
It is amazing, yeah. Just briefly describe the building you're sitting in.
I am sitting in my lighthouse home that was built by my husband of 20 years, Roger Storer, and he built it in honor of his father, Arthur Storer, who was from Nottingham, England. So my husband and my father-in-law were from England. I adored them both. Unfortunately, Arthur died in 1997, and so this building was built in honor of him. And then in 2014, my husband joined him. So the building, the home, is built like a lighthouse. It is on the shore of Lake Travis in Austin, Texas. A rather strange place for a lighthouse, but I love this home, and it is now in honor of both my father-in-law and my husband, Roger.
That's so beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Lark. And now I guess it's radiating golden light.
It is.
Yes. Lark is well known for wearing gold and for actually, I love the way you address the members at the Chicago as golden members. That was beautiful. It felt very warm to be part of that. So Toastmasters International is a global organization of which you are now the leader, the head. And the organization, for those people who don't know, is the world's leader in speaking and communication and leadership. And to have achieved that pinnacle, Lark, is certainly no mean feat. How long have you been in Toastmasters?
28 years, literally this month.
28 years, wow. So your aspirations, I presume, when you joined Toastmasters, didn't begin with, I want to be president one day.
No, in fact, I knew nothing about the leadership track in Toastmasters. I joined in order to improve my communication skills, and then I became a club officer and gradually went through different leadership roles in the organization. I certainly never expected to be president of this organization, but members, leaders along the way mentored me toward this role. I'm very glad, though, I took a break from leadership at different points in my career in Toastmasters and came back to leadership in 2015 and now have the privilege, the honor to serve as the international president.
Well, I think it's an amazing achievement because, you know, with you as a woman sitting at the top of the organization, it's without, you know, putting too fine a point on it, you are a role model, and you're a role model for other women who are looking up to and aspiring to leadership in any form, whether it's in their own organization, their company, their business, whether it's, it could even be within Toastmasters. So you are there as a role model, and I see that as a very important aspect of your role. Given that Toastmasters, when it was formed, did not include women. And
that's correct.
So
we did not include women until 1973. And what's very interesting is that my brother was a member of the organization when women were not allowed in the organization. And he never even told me about his membership in Toastmasters until after I joined. And he said, well, I was a member years ago, So I found out then that he was a member before 1973. Mm-hmm.
Wow. And I think now, we've got to the point where we've got a female president, yourself. We've also, at the same time, got a female world champion of public speaking. And that has just happened. And to see you both on stage at Chicago at the International Convention was one of those moments that you kind of get, like I'm doing now, I'm getting goosebumps. I'm feeling like this is a really significant moment in our history, in the history of this organization. Not only were you there as international president welcoming the winner on, but there were the other two place getters were women as well. And it was like women from across the world.
Absolutely. We made history that day. Literally, this is the first time in the history of our organization that 3 women took the first, second, and third place in the international speech competition. It was truly an incredible experience to announce the 3 winners. And when I announced the first place winner, I said, we have made history today. And of course, when I made that statement, the whole audience just went up in applause because they knew that I was going to announce a female as the first place winner. And I did. It was amazing. It was such an honor, such an honor.
Incredible, like being in the audience that day and feeling the response of the audience. It was almost like there was people standing on the seats cheering and yelling. It was incredible. It must have been hard for you when you see the first, second, and third before you've announced it to keep a face that doesn't give too much away.
It was. I will tell you that the chief judge actually, when handing me the envelope, said, we've made history. And I'm so glad she said that, because then I leveraged that. When she said it to me, I had no idea what she was meaning until I opened the envelope with the list of winners. And then, of course, I immediately knew, and then I did use that phrase. It was a wonderful phrase to use that day.
It was beautiful. It was entirely appropriate. There was not only was the 3 women winners, but also yourself as a female. It was all amazing, the energy. So I feel there's a big shift that has happened, and will continue. The reverberations will continue to happen. It was, if I without being too dramatic, it felt like it was a seismic shift. It was almost like an earthquake, a big tremor, and then out from there. So watch this space. Now, that's in a sense your Toastmasters part of your journey, and that brings us together because we had met on the board of yes. Toastmasters International. We served on the board together, and we did business, but we had fun.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. The board is the strategic arm of the organization, but we do have fun. Our founder said that we need to have fun, that we learn best in times of enjoyment. So we certainly want to do that at our club meetings and certainly on our board of directors.
Yeah, and it's good for people listening, Toastmasters and others, to know that on a board you can have fun as well as do business.
Absolutely. We build relationships in our organization. So one of the things that we rarely discuss is that not only do we learn communication and leadership skills, but we build relationships. And certainly I want members to build relationships with one another. And certainly we want our board of directors to do so as well, to care and support one another.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, if I can turn to your I guess your professional life, you started off wanting to be something, but becoming something else. Can you resolve that mystery for us? Because I think it's an interesting story that other people listening to will resonate with.
Yes, when I grew up as a baby boomer, women became teachers. That was one of the main professions for women. And when I went to college at Trinity University, I thought about engineering because I loved mathematics, but because women really didn't do that back then, I became a mathematics teacher. And I enjoyed teaching mathematics, but then I had the privilege to join Texas Instruments, an engineering firm, and I went into the marketing arm of Texas Instruments. But if I had that engineering degree, I think I could have done a lot more with my professional life. So it is a little bit of a regret that I did not at that time think, look, I can do anything I want to do, and engineering is something that I can do. I have that ability, and instead went into the teaching profession, which, by the way, I love. I love then and I love now because that's what I do currently. But I wish I'd received an engineering degree so that I could have leveraged my profession a little differently.
So you didn't actually do an engineering degree. You did a degree in maths and education, I'm assuming?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Because it's so much, even today is the case that engineering is a very male dominated industry. And for any woman who wants to go into it or who finds herself in the industry, there are a lot of kind of obstacles that you have to go through. So even though you're saying you're a baby boomer, I know from my personal experience that same kind of attitudes are still there today. So something needs to change. Something needs to change. Have you experienced anything within within your career where as a woman you felt you were disadvantaged?
Interestingly enough, at Texas Instruments, I interviewed for a promotion for a management position, and a gentleman interviewed for the position as well. I was selected, but 2 weeks later, I had a new manager. So the manager who hired me moved into another position, and so they replaced him. And that manager called me into his office, and he said to me, if I had been in the management position 2 weeks ago, you would not be in the position you are in today. So I spent a year proving myself. I spent a year documenting everything I did and everything my team did. And we were successful. And a year later, I had his job. But it was a year of challenge. It was a year of stress. But it certainly ended up that I did well in that position. But it was a very stressful year, a very challenging year. And so I just say persevere.
Yeah, persevere. Yeah, good message. But it seems a shame that you almost have to work twice as hard to get to where you want to be, to prove yourself almost. And I think that's something that's a little unfair, unreasonable, to put it mildly. But thank goodness you had the presence of mind to document everything. And I love the resolution of that, where you ended up taking on his role after only a year. So that's a lovely way out. What was the biggest setback you've experienced in your life? Whether it's
the biggest setback I experienced was really the death of my husband. Professionally, I feel that I've been very blessed because after working at Texas Instruments, I co-founded a company called Second Wave Incorporated, and we manufactured peripheral devices for the Apple Macintosh and did fairly well and sold that business 12 years later. And then I went into working as a trainer, really, and I love doing that. Certainly that's how I began my career. So once we sold the business, I became an adult professional trainer at a company called DBM, and then now for Maximus. I thoroughly enjoy professional development training, so I feel very blessed that I'm in this career. But definitely, I think had I had an engineering degree, my profession would have been a little different. And that might have been more challenging, more rewarding. But as I said, I'm blessed beyond measure.
Yeah, and I think that was really, you came up against the attitudes of the time or the attitudes of that industry, and then you went, it was just right in your face, and that was pretty much what you experienced at the time. But the other setback you mentioned, you touched on at the beginning, was obviously a personal setback with the death of your husband, and that affects everyone. That, like, regardless of what industry they're in, it can affect anyone at any time. So how did you bounce back from that? Because it was only 4 years ago, and you said the following year you revived your leadership.
I did. And again, there were 3 elements that brought me back. 1, I have a strong faith. 2, I have incredible family and friends that were there every step of the way. And 3rd, I had my job. My husband died on a Thursday, and what I didn't know is that my personal leave ended the day that he died. I did not go back to work on Friday because I didn't know that. But I received a call from the company that took care of the personal leave, and they said, you need to be back at work. So I went back to work on Monday, and I will tell you that was a great opportunity for me to focus on something other than my husband's death. So truly, faith, family, and my job pulled me through. Yeah. And a part of those friends were Toastmaster friends. A Toastmaster friend called me and said, Lark, let's go to Kuala Lumpur. If you want to go to Kuala Lumpur, then I'll make all the arrangements. I was at that point in time not in a position to focus on that. So the fact that she called me and said she would take care of all of the reservations, both the airline and the hotel, if I would just come, that prompted me to go. And 4 months later, I was in KL. And there, the Toastmaster family, the Toastmaster friends surrounded me. They told me how much they cared about me, supported me, and asked me what my next step would be in Toastmasters. And that was the beginning of my journey to become president.
Wow. How you can turn around adversity and make it success is just, in that story, you just encapsulated it. Because you mentioned Toastmasters friends, and we often say that they become like family. And you just put that very, very clearly out on the screen when you said, as a lady, it took you over, almost like put her arms around you and said, Lark, we are going to Kuala Lumpur.
Literally, she just about did that. Yes, Gloria Williams, a past district governor of District 55. Yes, wow. If it hadn't been for her, I would not be here today.
That is so beautiful. So how important it is to foster those kind of friendships in our life, and not to think we're doing this on our own, or to do things from the wrong place, from ego, for example, and that kind of model. I would love to bury that one, because you can see it tripping up people. You can see it tripping up people who aspire to leadership positions, and maybe they've got their foot on the ladder, but it's that it's something in them that takes over, and it's this feeling of it's all about me, and it's not. And you'll be better able to say this than I can. But when I got to my level in Toastmasters, I realized that actually the further you got, the more leadership was about service. It's not about me at all.
Absolutely. I had the privilege last year to travel to China and to Australia. It was an amazing experience to see the young leaders in Toastmasters. And I talked with them about servant leadership. I had the privilege to talk with them about it. It was amazing, the passion that they have for this organization and their willingness to dedicate themselves to servant leadership. So I am so grateful for all of the servant leaders around our globe. Every one of them a volunteer, none of them paid to serve in their leadership roles. And many of these roles, as you know, Charlie, take a year to 5 years in order to complete. So my gratitude is overflowing to all the Toastmasters leaders around the globe.
Yeah. So what would you share with someone who's just joined Toastmasters? What sort of golden nugget would you share with them?
I would tell them to make it a lifelong journey of learning. I believe that in Toastmasters, we learn every day. We learn communication skills and we learn leadership skills. And they can go as far in this organization in their communication skills and in their leadership skills as they desire. There will be mentors all along the way to help them, to support them. But it is a journey. And I believe that they can continue to grow in this organization day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, because we are all about learning. And we need to continue to do that every day of our lives.
Beautiful. Thank you. Well said. You mentioned mentors. You must have had mentors in your past to enable you to have, as they say, sat on the shoulders of giants.
Absolutely.
I don't know, if you want to mention any names but if you just want to mention the kind of roles that they filled for you.
I can mention names, but I may leave some out. So Carol Bozitsky was my area director. Bill Dunn was my division director. Jean Riggs was the red hot mama of District 56, the district director. It was a governor at that point in time. Every one of those individuals encouraged me to pursue the district level of leadership. And then Art Nieto and Jana Barnhill were ones that encouraged me to run for international director. And then there are many who asked me about what my next step would be, so many of them. And then Margaret Cathy, who's a past district governor here in District 55, she said, I will help you pull together your campaign team if you want to do this. And then David Estrada, my campaign manager, who passed away this past year, was an amazing support for me. There are just so many, all my friends, Debbie and Steve Sygrist and Jerry Barrett. There's just a multitude of mentors and friends who saw me through this journey. Just an amazing group of past district governors, district directors, and at all levels of this organization, from members all the way to the top levels of this organization, who have encouraged me and mentored me all along the way.
Beautiful. And it's so hard when you're trying to remember everyone.
Oh, by the way, my current mentors are Mike Storkey and Pat Johnson, both past presidents. And I'm keeping in regular touch with them because, again, we all need mentors and we all need to make sure that we are continuing to learn and grow.
Yeah. Now, you must have been a mentor to many Toastmasters, I imagine, over the years. Can you share a story where you turned somebody from potentially leaving the organization to becoming a passionate advocate of Toastmasters?
My campaign manager, David Estrada, used to say that the reason that he moved up in leadership in the organization was because of me and my inspiration. And if that's the then I'm honored and humbled about that. Every member I meet along the way, many people say that I have inspired them, and for that I am eternally grateful. If I've inspired anyone to continue in this organization, to grow in this organization, then I am honored that I have been able to have that influence on them.
Yeah, yeah. And I think when you mentioned that the campaign manager that had gone from this side to that side and become your campaign manager, I mean, that says everything, because that's such a huge role. What was it that how was it you managed to convert him?
Well, interestingly enough, I met him at the club level when I was an area governor. And then we just actually, he had to pick me up and take me to my club meetings because I was carless for a while, and we got to know one another as friends during that time. And after that, after he got to know me and I got to know him, I think it was just a natural thing that he realized how passionate I was about Toastmasters and began to become as passionate about the organization as I was. We lived in the same neighborhood, and he was so kind to pick me up to take me to club meetings, and I enjoyed going to his club meetings because of that as well. So we were a one-car family. My husband and I had one car, and so I was carless as far as a separate car for myself, and David was very kind to be my chauffeur on occasions to go to club meetings. We got to know one another and realized that I had a passion for the organization, and he became as passionate for it as well.
That's great. Now, just to wrap up this conversation, your year ahead, it must look like I mean, I can only imagine when I see where you travel to, but past presidents have traveled to, you must have a pretty full calendar of trips overseas. Is that correct?
This year, I will not be traveling as much in the fall because we are only having April, May conferences, but I am traveling to a few places. So I will be traveling for the November board meeting, and then I will be going to mid-year, one of the mid-years. We have our March board meeting in Denver, but then in April, May, yes, I have the privilege to travel to multiple places. So I believe I'll be going to Taiwan and New Zealand as a couple of those, and we're still finalizing the schedule for April, May. But again, it is such an honor to be able to travel for Toastmasters and to meet Toastmasters members and leaders from around the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And those countries can look forward to hosting Lark when she does come out there. Taiwan and New Zealand certainly seem like the lucky ones so far. I know from personal experience working with you on the board, Lark, and also outside the board, that you are a bundle of energy and a wonderful human being, and you've also got a wonderful sense of humor. And I've always had that connection with you because of the fact of who you are as a person. And I think I cannot think of a more worthy leader of our organization than you. I think it's highly appropriate that you as a woman are serving as the leader of our organization.
Thank you, Charlie. It was such an honor to get to know you. And yes, we did have some good times on the board. We made great decisions, or golden decisions, I would say, but we also had fun doing it. So thank you so much for your leadership.
My pleasure. And thank you so much for spending the time this morning on the interview from your lighthouse in Austin on the lake. Fascinating place. I did get a little tour around earlier before we came on air. But I'm so grateful that you were able to find the time to talk to transformational women, and women who will look at you and go, look at this woman, Lark Doley. She's come from here, and now she's right there at the top of this global organization. And I think you're a great, you are not, I just don't think that you are a great role model for everyone, whether they're male or female, but particularly for women who are looking to aspire to leadership. Thank you so much for being on the interview this morning, Lark Doley.
Thank you, Charlie.